Hi there. It's March the 10th, and we continue our journeying through the good news of Mark, and we're in chapter 14. We're finishing chapter 14 from 52 through to 72. Now Jesus has been arrested, he's been taken, and he's now led to the house of the high priest, and here gather the chief priests and the scribes and those who want to bring accusations against Jesus. And it says that Peter, although the others have gone, Peter follows at a distance. And Peter comes as far as the courtyard of the high priest's house. And there are some people warming themselves by the fire, so he takes his place with them. But Jesus now faces what is actually really a kangaroo court. It shouldn't be convened at night. There was a prohibition about convening a court at night, but they were so anxious not to arouse public anger that they do it in this secrecy. And so they try and get witnesses to come and testify against Jesus, but they can't find any. There are no witnesses to actually say that he has done anything wrong. And so they actually fabricate witnesses. They probably pay some people to come and speak against him. Now, interestingly, the accusation that they bring against him is an interesting accusation, even though it's a false accusation. They say that Jesus said that he would tear down the temple made with hands, and in 3 days he would build a new temple not made with hands. And there's something interesting there. There's an insight here about the fact that the temple would fall in 70 AD, and there hasn't been a temple since then. But Jesus' people, the people of God, continue as his temple of living stones. So even in this false accusation, there were some grains of reality in there. And then the chief priest gets so frustrated, he asks Jesus directly, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Most High?" And Jesus just says, "Ego eimi, I am. And you will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of glory." And so the priest is absolutely incensed, and in Jewish tradition he rips open his garments and as a sign of the blasphemy he's just heard and his grief at it, and he says, "We now hear that this is done. He's now done something worthy of death. We can now arrange for him to be destroyed." Meantime, outside in the courtyard, Peter is warming himself, and a young woman recognizes him and says, "You were with Jesus, weren't you?" Peter immediately, in a kind of a reaction, in kind of a reflex, says, "No, I wasn't with him," denies it, and backs off. And then another person asks him, "You certainly were with him." And then someone else says, "No, you've got a Galilean accent. You're from the north. We know you were with him." And Peter actually swears blind that he doesn't know Jesus. And the cockerel has already crowed once, and then it crows again as he denies Jesus a third time. And he remembers that Jesus said to him, "Peter, before the cock crows twice, you will deny me 3 times." And it says it says that Peter went out and he wept. Ekleia in Greek, he just wept. And that with that word, this chapter finishes. It finishes with the word "he wept." We see 2 things going on here. We see the evil and the anger of men. We see the rage of religion against truth. We see Jesus being cornered. But we also see something amazing. We see God's will being worked out. We see the perfect sacrifice being prepared. Even when Jesus doesn't speak before the high priest, we're reminded of those words of Isaiah 53, that he was like a sheep before his shearers, dumb, not opening his mouth, and he didn't answer a word. There are so many echoes here that point us to the fact that this is not just happening piecemeal, but there is actually an unfolding purpose here in what is happening. Of course, in the next chapter we come to discover that terrible but wonderful salvation through the cross that Jesus is going to bring as Mark concludes his gospel. Have a very good March the 10th.